a chronic illness, and a rocky marriage with rock royalty. If she could turn back time, this might be what Cher would change. As she admitted to Parade, Cher's childhood was pretty rocky. As a child, Cher sometimes lived with her grandparents and even spent a short time in an orphanage. Since her mother dated a wide range of men, their circumstances could change drastically overnight. Recalling a period she and her mother spent in poverty, Cher told Vanity Fair, "I remember being really ashamed of my clothes. My mom would say, 'Jesus Christ, Cher, we can't afford shoes, stop this.' I remember going to school with rubber bands around my shoes to keep my soles on." But they weren't always living paycheck to paycheck. Cher said to Vanity Fair, "We ate a can of stew or a can of beans one week, but then sometimes we lived in Beverly Hills. It was a very strange life." Cher was only 16 when she ran away from home and met her future husband, Sonny Bono, in Los Angeles. As she recalled in her autobiography, The First Time, "I was fascinated by anything different, and I was fascinated by Son from the moment he walked through the door. And I actually thought to myself, something is different now. You're never going to be the same." She moved in with the older man, and they eventually began the romantic and creative partnership that would result in hits like "I Got You, Babe." But their real-life marriage wasn't as rosy as their cheerful pop songs seem to imply. Years after her divorce from Bono, Cher claimed in a 1990 interview with Vanity Fair, "Sonny didn't even love me, I don't think. He just didn't want me to get away from him." She also later implied that fame turned Sonny into a controlling womanizer, telling Vanity Fair, "Sonny did a couple of things, treating me more like the golden goose than like his wife. I wouldn't have left him if he hadn't had such a tight grip. Such a tight grip." Sonny and Cher couldn't hold the attention of their young audience forever, especially in contrast to the sex, drugs, and rock music that took over the airwaves in the late 1960s. Cher recalled in her autobiography, The First Time, "I loved the new sound of Led Zeppelin, Eric Clapton, the electric guitar-oriented bands. Left to myself, I would have changed with the times because the music really turned me on." Sonny Bono, however, didn't approve. He also appeared on the radio to talk about the dangers of marijuana, which completely alienated all their fans who had become hippies. Cher's first film, Chastity, written by Bono, was also a flop that plunged them into debt. Cher told Jimmy Fallon,
"Sonny and I, we were really famous, and then our career just went off a hill, and we had no money, we had no job."
The pair turned to television, but the end was already near. Cher's 1975 divorce from Sonny Bono was a difficult time for the pop star, especially since it turned out that she was trapped in a contract where Bono owned 95% of all their earnings. Cher told The Guardian, "We worked side by side for 11 years, and I ended up with nothing. I worked really hard for that money, and it never occurred to me that he would take it." Cher even had to pay an extra $2 million when they split because she was technically breaking their joint contract. She was dating record executive David Geffen at the time, however, and he managed to get her free. Cher still credits Geffen with rescuing her from debt and her legally binding ties to Bono. Cher told Vanity Fair, "I had no money and no way to live. If it wasn't for David, I don't know where I would have been. I would have been in the street."
He was such a wonderful boyfriend. We had such a great time together.
Cher's next major relationship was with Gregg Allman, the unpredictable Southern rocker who formed the Allman Brothers. The pair had a whirlwind marriage, sabotaged by his substance abuse issues, which pushed her to file for divorce after only 9 days. As he admitted in his autobiography, My Cross to Bear, Allman had done heroin on their very first date, but it wasn't until they were married that Cher realized how serious his problem was. Allman wrote in his autobiography, "So I woke up one morning and told her, 'Look, I've got to tell you something. I'm addicted to narcotics.'" Cher became determined to cure her husband of his addiction, but none of her ideas worked out. The birth of their son, Elijah Blue, changed things. Cher later admitted to Vanity Fair, "You know, I loved him, but I didn't really want Elijah around him alone. It's hard finding a drug addict who is also going to be a father." Their joint album was also a critical and commercial failure, but it was the subsequent tour that finally split them up. Cher told The Guardian, "Gregory was a special man. He was a Southern gentleman who happened to do drugs. It was that simple, and he tried hard to get off them." Sonny Bono's unexpected death shocked the world in 1998. Bono, who had since become a Republican politician, had been skiing in California with his new family when he hit a tree and suffered massive head trauma. Cher was devastated over the loss. She gave the eulogy at his funeral, stating, "He was the most unforgettable character I've ever encountered, and no matter how long I live or who I meet in my life, that person will always be Sonny for me." Reflecting on the lifelong bond between them, Cher later told Vanity Fair, "I forgive him, I think. He hurt me in so many ways, but there was something. He was so much more than a husband, a terrible husband, but a great mentor, a great teacher." Cher also revealed that if her ex-husband had just agreed to split their business deals fairly, she probably would never have left him. Cher made her first critically praised movie in the 1980s, starring as Meryl Streep's lesbian friend in the conspiracy drama Silkwood. But as she told Graham Norton, audiences didn't take her first big role seriously. Recalling how the film's director Mike Nichols had told her to go see the trailer when it first aired in a nearby cinema, the superstar recalled, "It was terrible, actually. They say Meryl Streep and everyone applauds. And then they say Kurt Russell and everyone applauds. And then they say Cher and everyone started laughing." She was hurt by the audience's heartbreaking reaction, but Nichols reassured her over the phone that night, telling Cher,
They may laugh in the beginning, but they won't be laughing at the end.
in the end, he was right. Cher received an Academy Award nomination for her supporting role. She followed that up with films like Mask, before actually winning the Oscar in 1988 for her star turn in the romantic comedy Moonstruck opposite Nicolas Cage.
Snap out of it!
For decades, Cher has been living with chronic illness and fatigue after contracting the Epstein-Barr virus. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Cher revealed that she had been formally diagnosed with Epstein-Barr in 1986, but it was during the filming of Mermaids that she really felt the weight of the disease. "I was so sick, I thought I was going to die. I went to doctor after doctor." According to her Twitter, the star kept working as she initially thought it was just bronchitis, but she wasn't getting the antibiotics that she needed, so her condition worsened. Cher has always found comfort in performing whenever she is physically able. However, the star told Parade, "Even when you're feeling sick, hurting a lot, like you might die, once you get out there on stage and find everything is working, the lights, the music, you know you'll be fine. It's magnificent." Although Cher has become an icon for the LGBT community over the years, she struggled with her own child's journey at first, and her reaction caused a painful rift. When her son, Chaz Bono, originally came out as a lesbian at age 18, Cher kicked him out of the house. Chaz recalled in an interview with Joy Behar,
I had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Luckily, I moved in with her. She freaked out for about a week, and then she called me up and apologized.
While speaking to Behar, Chaz gave this explanation for his mother's negative reaction.
An initial really bad reaction, which was partly due to the fact that everybody else knew and she didn't. Her feelings were hurt.
Explaining Cher's short-sighted approach to his sexuality, Chaz added,
It's different when it's your kid.
In 2009, Chaz came out to the world as a transgender man and announced that he had begun medically transitioning. Cher later admitted to CNN that she found it hard to adjust, but learned to accept her son over time. Cher observed,
You have one child, but you don't really lose them. They just are in a different shape.
Cher's relationship with her other child, Elijah Blue Allman, has been strained over the years. Allman told Entertainment Tonight in 2014, "When you go to boarding school at 7 years old, it's kind of hard to feel like you're not being shunned. There's unresolved stuff for sure." During his troubled childhood, Allman began relying heavily on substance abuse. He ended up spending time in rehab to recover from his addictions and has praised his wife, Angie King, for helping him out. But the pair haven't exactly received Cher's blessing. Although the couple moved in with his famous mother for a while in 2013, they ended up leaving on bad terms, and Allman didn't speak to Cher for months afterwards. As he revealed to the Daily Mail, Cher never acknowledged his engagement to King and wasn't invited to their subsequent elopement. The musician remains positive about his relationship with his mother, however, telling Entertainment Tonight, "You know, man, we have our issues. We've worked through a lot of them. You don't have any choice if you want to be a balanced person, but to ultimately heal. If you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.